Two words became a catchphrase before most people knew who said them. That's espresso. The summer of 2024. T-shirts, memes, playlists. The phrase repeating in the specific viral loop that the algorithmic attention economy produces for content that has hit the register of the moment, simultaneously clever and simple, saying something familiar in a way that feels new. The song was 2 minutes and 56 seconds long, built around a guitar figure, a hand clap, a single chord progression, and a lyrical conceit about the effect a woman has on a man who cannot stop thinking about her. The singer's name was Sabrina Carpenter. She was 24 years old. She had been a professional entertainer since she was 12. 12 years of accumulated professional work produced what the cultural conversation received as an overnight sensation. The story of what those 12 years actually contained and what they built and what they cost is the story this video is going to tell. The question this story raises is one, the cultural conversation of 2024 asked with remarkable consistency and framed with remarkable imprecision. Is Sabrina Carpenter real talent or pure controversy? As though the two options were mutually exclusive, as though the presence of genuine talent meant the controversy was manufactured, or the presence of genuine controversy meant the talent was insufficient. Both framings are wrong. The honest examination of her career, the full arc of it, from the Disney Channel beginnings, through the years of professional development in relative obscurity, through the breakthrough that Espresso produced, reveals something more complicated and more instructive. A person who has been building a specific kind of career with a specific kind of intention for more than a decade, who made choices across that decade that were not always the choices the people around her recommended, and who arrived at the summer of 2024 with a sound and a persona and a set of cultural relationships that were not accidents. They were the product of 12 years of work and choice, and the specific kind of strategic self-construction that the pop industry rewards when it is done well. Here is what is actually at stake in examining this story carefully. The Sabrina Carpenter moment of 2024 is the clearest available illustration of the gap between how pop careers are perceived to be built and how they are actually built. The overnight success narrative, the version that says espresso happened and then everything changed, is accurate about the timing and wrong about the causation. What Espresso did was make visible something that had been building for 12 years. Understanding what was building and what it required to build it, and what the specific convergence of the era's tour and the cultural moment and the song itself produced, that is. The analysis this video is organized around, because the analysis tells you something real about how pop careers are actually made, which is considerably more interesting than the overnight success version of the story. Sabrina Annlyn Carpenter was born on the 11th of May 2000 in Quakertown, Pennsylvania. The youngest of 4 daughters born to David and Elizabeth Carpenter, in a household the accounts of her early life describe as warm, close, and unusually organized around performing and artistic activity. Her father was involved in the entertainment industry as a manager and producer of local and regional performance, which meant that the household's relationship to performance was not the aspirational outsider relationship of the typical stage family, but the more matter-of-fact relationship of a family for whom the entertainment industry was a professional reality rather than a dream. The performing environment was present from before she was old enough to have opinions about it. Her grandmother, Darlene, is the family member she has most consistently credited in interviews with the specific quality of musical encouragement she received outside the professional context. Not the industry-oriented encouragement of the father who knew what a career looked like, but the more fundamental encouragement of a person who heard the voice and understood that it was something and said so clearly and consistently at the age when being told clearly and consistently that a capacity is real is the thing that determines whether the person develops it or lets it remain latent. She began posting videos to YouTube at the age of 9, covers of songs she liked, delivered with the directness and the seriousness that her subsequent professional work would display in more developed form. She appeared in a national commercial for Old Navy at the age of 10. She was small and she was confident, and she had the specific quality of a performer who does not require external validation to maintain their composure in a professional context. The quality that casting directors and producers consistently noted in their assessments of her. She was cast in the series Girl Meets World in 2013 at the age of 12 in the role of Maya Hart, the best friend of the protagonist Riley Matthews, the more interesting and more dramatically demanding of the two central parts. Maya was the edgier character, the one from the difficult home, the one whose comedy had a specific quality of genuine feeling underneath it, the one who provided the dramatic counterweight to the more straightforwardly optimistic protagonist. The casting was not accidental. The people at Disney Channel who cast her saw the specific capacity that the role required and matched it to the person they were casting with a precision that the performance she subsequently gave in the role validated. The Disney Channel system is the most effective talent development and commercial packaging machine in the history of children's and young adult entertainment, and its relationship to the careers of the performers it employs is a relationship of extraordinary complexity. On one side of the ledger, Disney Channel provides its young performers with professional training, audience building, brand recognition, and the specific commercial infrastructure that converts raw talent into marketable product at a scale that no independent path provides for performers at the ages Disney employs them. On the other side, it constrains its performers within the specific identity requirements of the Disney brand, the family-friendly, positive messaging, carefully managed public image in ways that create a specific, creative, and personal tension for the performers as they age toward the adult identities that the Disney framework cannot accommodate. The tension is structural, and it is universal among the Disney alumni who have attempted to build adult careers. Miley Cyrus made the transition through deliberate and sustained provocation, a series of moves that burned the Disney identity comprehensively and replaced it with something genuinely different. Selena Gomez made it through a combination of gradual artistic seriousness and the specific cultural capital of her mental health advocacy. Demi Lovato made it through a series of struggles and recoveries whose authenticity the audience responded to with genuine sympathy. Sabrina Carpenter, when Girl Meets World ended in 2017, was faced with the same transition and the same fundamental choice. She was 17 years old when Girl Meets World was cancelled. She had spent 5 years, from the age of 12 to 17, in the Disney system, the specific years of adolescent development during which the formation of adult identity happens most intensely. The Disney identity she had built as Maya Hart was a genuinely accomplished piece of work, but it was inevitably a Disney identity bounded by the specific constraints of the platform and organized around the character rather than around the person. When the character ended, the question of who Sabrina Carpenter was outside the Disney framework was the question that the career required answering. She answered it through her music. The Singular albums, Singular Act I in 2018, Singular Act II in 2019, moved progressively further from the Disney aesthetic in both sonic choices and lyrical content. The lyrical content in particular, songs about desire and relationships and the specific emotional complexity of being a young woman in the entertainment industry that the Disney framework had not permitted. The songs were good, they were better than the Disney era material, they did not produce the commercial breakthrough. The commercial underperformance of the Singular albums is the period that retrospective career narratives move past quickly, in the way that narratives organized around eventual triumph tend to skip the years that did not produce triumph. The honest examination of those years requires staying with them longer. They were the years in which the question of whether the industry investment in her as a commercial property would be sustained was genuinely uncertain. The years in which the Disney alumni transition was producing more work traction, in which the critical appreciation of her talent was not converting into the commercial audience that commercial success requires. She was working, she was developing, she was not yet breaking through. And the industry, which is not organized around patient development of artistic careers, but around the efficient identification and exploitation of commercial moments, was not infinitely patient. The decision to pursue acting alongside the music, she had a supporting role in the Tall Girl Netflix film in 2019, and continued to take acting projects across the following years, was the decision of a performer who understood that the commercial moment had not yet arrived for the music, and who was maintaining professional visibility through multiple streams while continuing to develop the musical work. This is a specific kind of strategic intelligence, the intelligence of a person who knows what they are building toward and who manages the gap between the present position and the goal with the practical competence that the gap requires without compromising the direction of the goal. It does not generate the narrative of overnight success. The career that it produces, when it produces one, is characteristically durable. The Emails I Can't Send, released in 2022, is the album that the critical analysis of her career identifies as the first fully realized expression of the adult artistic identity she had been developing since the Disney years. The album was self-produced, in significant part a departure from the industry-produced records of the earlier career, and the specific quality of the production reflected a level of creative control and intention that the earlier albums had not consistently demonstrated. The critical response was the most favorable of her career to that point. The commercial response was the most significant of her career to that point, though still not at the level that the Espresso Summer would subsequently produce. Read My Mind demonstrated her lyrical voice in its pre-Espresso form, simultaneously witty and genuinely felt, making the emotional situation specific enough to be personal and universal enough to be recognizable. Because I Liked a Boy, the song that the entertainment press covered primarily in the context of its apparent biographical reference to the Alwyn situation, is, beneath the biographical reading, a song about the specific experience of being blamed for a situation that was not yours alone to be blamed for, written with the specific directness of someone who has understood the situation clearly and is not pretending to a false generosity about it. That refusal to perform a more palatable version of herself is the quality that the subsequent career's best work would continue to demonstrate. The Joshua Bassett situation, the Olivia Rodrigo dimension of the Sabrina Carpenter public narrative, is the element the coverage has most consistently either overemphasized or underemphasized. The honest account is in neither of those positions, and it reveals something specific about how she managed a controversy that tells you more about her strategic intelligence than anything else in the decade of work. The professional relationship between Sabrina Carpenter and Taylor Swift began publicly in a context that was, for Carpenter, not the most advantageous framing available. In early 2023, Swift was widely understood to be romantically involved with actor Joe Alwyn, with whom she had been in a relationship for 6 years. Also in early 2023, Alwyn and Swift ended their relationship. Also in early 2023, Alwyn and Carpenter were romantically linked. The timeline and the reported nature of the overlap were the subject of significant tabloid coverage and significant social media discussion, the specific dynamics of which positioned Carpenter in the specific role that the Taylor Swift fandom finds most threatening and most deserving of hostility, the third party. Whether the characterization was accurate to the facts of the situation was less relevant to the cultural dynamic than the fact that the characterization had been made and had been received by a significant audience. She was, in a portion of the pop cultural conversation, the person who had disrupted a beloved relationship The subsequent development, Swift announcing Carpenter as one of the opening acts for the Eras Tour, was received by the cultural conversation with the specific combination of surprise and interpretive effort that a counterintuitive move always generates. Was it a statement of absolution? A business decision organized entirely around Carpenter's commercial potential as a warm-up act? A performance of magnanimity? The honest answer is that the specific private dynamics of the Swift-Carpenter relationship are not available to the public analysis. What is available is the professional fact. Carpenter opened for Swift on the most commercially successful concert tour in the history of popular music. The Eras Tour platform is the most significant single professional development of Carpenter's career in terms of audience exposure. The specific mechanism by which the audience that Espresso reached in the summer of 2024 was assembled. The Eras Tour played to stadium audiences across North America, Europe, Latin America, and Australasia, and the opening act slot in a stadium tour of that scale provides its performer with the specific experience of performing to audiences larger than most artists play to in their headlining careers. Carpenter performed those sets with a command and a specific quality of stage presence that the people who attended the shows consistently reported as the quality of a performer who was not intimidated by the scale of the situation, who treated the stadium as her room, who delivered the performance with the confidence of someone who had been preparing for exactly this scale for exactly the preceding decade. The specific artistic development that happened during and around the Eras Tour period is the development that the commercial success of Espresso most directly reflects. She was writing and recording the material that would become Short and Sweet across the same period in which she was performing to stadium audiences as Swift's opening act. And the specific creative evolution visible across those recordings is the creative evolution of a performer who is being educated by the exposure and translating that education directly into the work. She was watching how the most accomplished live performer of her generation commanded a stadium audience. She was taking notes, the notes showed up in the music. The relationship with Barry Keoghan, the Irish actor with whom she was romantically linked across the Short and Sweet recording period, and whose presence is legible in the biographical reading of the album, across several of its tracks, is relevant to the career analysis, not because the specific private details of the relationship are the public's business, but because the specific way the relationship was publicly present and then publicly absent during the period of Short and Sweet's release produced a specific quality of tabloid narrative that the cultural conversation around her work was required to navigate alongside the musical discussion. He appeared in the Taste music video. The specific choice of casting a current or recent romantic partner in a music video about romantic competition is a choice that reflects either complete confidence in the relationship's stability or the specific kind of artistic boldness that does not always calculate the tabloid implications. The video was released. The relationship, by various reports, had ended. The tabloid narrative generated by the combination was the tabloid narrative of a former Disney performer in an explicit video with a famous ex-partner. She did not publicly engage with the narrative. The song continued to climb the charts. The specific quality of public behavior she has demonstrated across the Short and Sweet period, not engaging publicly with the tabloid narratives, not providing the parasocial commentary that the social media expectation of pop stars increasingly requires, letting the work make the argument rather than the persona, is a quality that the industry professionals who have observed her career describe as strategically intelligent. She has given interviews. She has been articulate and funny and genuinely engaging in those interviews. She has not given the continuous social media presence and parasocial relationship maintenance that the contemporary pop industry increasingly treats as a requirement of commercial relevance. The Espresso summer suggests that the requirement may be less absolute than the industry currently believes. The voice is the element of the Sabrina Carpenter story that the controversy framing most consistently crowds out of the conversation. And that is the specific irony that the real talent or pure controversy question produces when it is answered honestly. The framing is designed to question is the thing that the evidence most clearly confirms. The voice is the place where the honest assessment has to start, because the voice is the element of the Sabrina Carpenter commercial phenomenon that the controversy discussion most consistently crowds out, and that the serious musical analysis of her work most consistently identifies as the most distinctively accomplished dimension of the talent. She has a mezzo-soprano voice of unusual specific quality, the specific quality of a voice that has been trained without losing its particular character, that has developed technical control without developing the generic polish. That technical training sometimes produces in voices that were not distinctive to begin with. The lower part of her range has a dryness, a slightly smoky quality, a specific kind of intimate directness that is recognizable across 2 seconds of hearing it. The upper part of her range has a brightness that the lower part makes more surprising when she moves into it. The transition between the two is handled with a naturalness that singers who are technically proficient but not naturally gifted do not achieve the naturalness of someone whose technical training has developed a capacity that was already there rather than installed a capacity that was absent. Espresso is the specific demonstration of what the voice does when it is matched with the correct material. The song was written by Carpenter and Amy Allen, a songwriter whose specific gift for the kind of lyrical conceit that is both immediately accessible and specifically memorable is the gift that the Espresso lyric most clearly reflects. The production, spare, guitar forward, rhythm section present but not overwhelming, gives the voice the space it needs to deliver the lyrical conceit with the specific tonal quality of someone who means what they are saying and finds it amusing that they mean it. The deadpan is not effectless, it is effect control with precision, the effect of someone who knows that the self-satisfaction she is expressing is both genuine and slightly absurd, and who makes that simultaneous awareness audible in the delivery. This is a technically demanding performance choice. It is executed with the ease of someone who has been practicing the specific version of it that works for her particular voice for several years. Please, please, please. The second single demonstrated a different dimension of the range. The song is a genuine love song about wanting someone to not embarrass you, a simultaneously funny and genuinely vulnerable emotional situation, and the performance of it is the performance of a singer who can be funny and genuine simultaneously without letting either quality undermine the other. The chorus arrives and you are in it before you know it. That is a craft. It is not a manufactured quality. It cannot be purchased from a hitmaker or installed by a production team. Short and Sweet, released in August 2024, is the album that the analysis of the Sabrina Carpenter phenomenon requires examining as a complete artistic statement rather than as the commercial context from which Espresso emerged. The album is 12 tracks. It runs approximately 36 minutes. It debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200, making her the first artist in the album's chart history to have her first 2 chart toppers arrive in the same year. She co-wrote every song on the album. The songwriting on Short and Sweet is the element of the record that the serious musical analysis most consistently identifies as the evidence of genuine artistic intelligence the controversy discussion obscures. Coincidence? The album's ballad demonstrates a capacity for sustained emotional directness without the wit framework that the more stylized tracks rely on, a capacity for the specific vulnerability of genuine feeling delivered without ironic protection. Taste, the track about a romantic rival, demonstrates the specific kind of competitive confidence, the register of I am better at this than you and we both know it. That is one of the most specifically female pop archetypes and one of the hardest to execute without becoming either mean-spirited or self-congratulatory. She executes it with exactly the right amount of self-awareness. The production choices reflect a specific understanding of how her voice functions in a sonic context, what the voice requires from the production around it to do what it does most effectively. The Espresso production was restrained in a commercial landscape that recommends maximalism. The restraint was a bet. The bet was correct. The correctness reflects the understanding that this specific voice in this specific material did not need the production to carry the energy because the voice and the lyric were already carrying it. The aesthetic choices that generate the controversy, the videos, the wardrobe, the specific register of the live performance are the element of the work that the dismissal most aggressively targets and that the defense most aggressively protects without always examining. The honest examination finds both things simultaneously, the calculation and the genuine expression. The calculation is real. She is a 24-year-old former Disney Channel performer who understands with the specific industry literacy that 12 years in the entertainment business provides that the transition from the family-friendly Disney identity to the adult pop identity requires the demonstration of adult identity in ways that the audience can read clearly. The choices were made with the awareness of what they would communicate and what cultural conversations they would generate. The genuine expression is also real. The people who have worked closely with her across the short and sweet period have described the specific quality of her creative ownership of the aesthetic, the degree to which the choices come from her rather than being administered to her, the degree to which the creative direction reflects a genuine vision rather than a brand management exercise. The reports are consistent with the specific quality of the work, which carries the distinguishing mark of genuine creative ownership, a coherence across its elements that the assembled product of committee brand management does not reliably produce. The double standard in how her explicitness is covered versus how the equivalent explicitness of male artists is covered is the dimension of the controversy discussion that the feminist analysis most consistently and most correctly identifies. The specific acts and the specific content of the short and sweet live performances are not categorically different from the content of the live performances of male artists at equivalent commercial levels, whose explicitness generates industry coverage but not moral panic. The coverage they generate when the performer is Sabrina Carpenter is shaped by the specific combination of the former child star context and the double standard around female sexual self-expression that produces a specific quality of discomfort that the equivalent content from a male performer would not produce. But the former child star context is worth examining with more specificity than the double standard analysis alone provides. The audience that met Sabrina Carpenter when she was 12 years old, playing Maya Hart on Disney Channel, formed a relationship with that specific version of her, a relationship that carried on the audience's side the specific protective investment that adults bring to the performers they encounter first as children. The adult performer's expression of adult identity does not simply replace the child performer's image in that audience's perception, it competes with it. The competition produces the specific discomfort that the coverage expresses as controversy. The discomfort is a function of the relationship, not of the content. The honest assessment of where Sabrina Carpenter stands after the short and sweet moment is the assessment of an artist who has converted a decade of preparation into a commercial breakthrough and who is now in the specific position, the position of the post-breakthrough artists whose creative management will determine whether the breakthrough was a ceiling or a floor. The ceiling reading. Espresso was a perfect pop moment. Short and Sweet was the album that the perfect pop moment enabled, and the specific combination of cultural timing and sonic choices and personal narrative that produced both is not a formula that can be reliably repeated. The floor reading. The genuine artistic development that the decade of preparation represents is the foundation for a career of sustained relevance, and the specific qualities, the voice, the wit, the emotional intelligence, the craft that produced Espresso are the same qualities that will produce what comes next. The real talent, or pure controversy framing, is the wrong frame. The record provides this: a performer of genuine specific talent who has made specific strategic choices across a decade of professional development, who has used every resource available with the intelligence of someone who understood that the resources were means rather than ends, and who has arrived at 24 with a body of work that the dismissal of her as manufactured controversy and the celebration of her as uncomplicated feminist triumph are both insufficient to account for. The truth goes deeper. It goes as deep as 12 years of work that the public watched without seeing, and one summer in which the work finally produced something that the public could not look away from. The relationship between Sabrina Carpenter and Taylor Swift, which the entertainment press covers primarily as a mentorship or a professional association, is a relationship whose specific dynamics merit more careful examination than the coverage has consistently provided. The Eras Tour, which ran from March 2023 through December 2024, and which was by most commercial measures the most successful concert tour in the history of recorded music, provided Carpenter with sustained access to stadium-sized audiences whose scale no other opening act context in recent memory has approached. But the nature of what the Eras Tour audience provided was not simply exposure. It was a specific kind of exposure. The exposure of being seen and endorsed by the most commercially successful and most culturally influential pop artist of the contemporary era in the specific performance context that allowed the endorsement to be communicated without being explicitly stated. Standing on the same stage as Taylor Swift, night after night, before audiences who had paid thousands of dollars to be there, is a form of institutional validation that the pop industry cannot fully replicate through any other mechanism. Carpenter understood this. The way she performed during the Eras Tour, the specific quality of the sets she built for those stadium audiences, the evident preparation for a context in which the audience was enormous and not specifically hers, reflects an intelligence about what the opportunity required that the people who have studied her career describe as deliberate rather than incidental. The Olivia Rodrigo dimension of the Sabrina Carpenter public narrative is the element the coverage has most consistently either overemphasized or underemphasized, depending on the specific outlet's commercial incentives. The overemphasis version treats it as the primary driver of her cultural profile, the drama as the product rather than the talent as the product. The underemphasis version treats it as irrelevant noise that the coverage of her genuine artistic achievement should ignore. The honest account is in neither of those positions. The specific public attention that the Joshua Bassett situation generated, the songs, the responses, the specific quality of the cultural engagement it produced from the Olivia Rodrigo fan community was real and was significant, and provided Carpenter with the kind of intense, focused public attention that is genuinely rare for artists at her career stage. What she did with that attention is the more instructive question. She made it into material. She responded through songs rather than through statements. She maintained a specific quality of wit and self-possession in public that the people who were most invested in the controversy found genuinely difficult to organize the expected response around. The controversy did not make her career, but she made the controversy part of the career's foundation in a way that required a specific kind of artistic intelligence and a specific kind of strategic self-understanding. Espresso, the song that produced the breakthrough moment, was not the first excellent song she had made. It was the first excellent song she had made at the precise convergence of musical quality, cultural readiness, promotional infrastructure, and the specific short attention span demand of the streaming era's viral mechanism. The song's brevity, 2 minutes and 56 seconds, is not incidental to its success. The streaming era's attention economy rewards the song that can be consumed multiple times in the space of time that previous pop eras would have given to a single longer track. Espresso was structured to be consumed repeatedly, to reward repeated listening with new details, the specific quality of the deadpan delivery, the specific timing of the humor, the specific production choices that make the song feel larger than its running time suggests. These are not accident. They are the product of someone who had been studying what worked and what didn't for 12 years, and who, in the summer of 2024, finally had all the elements in place to make something that worked in every register simultaneously. The specific quality that Sabrina Carpenter brings to the performance of her own public persona is one of the more unusual capabilities in contemporary pop. The capacity to be genuinely funny without sacrificing the emotional credibility that the songs require. The deadpan delivery, the specific timing of the wit, the quality of self-awareness that allows her to acknowledge the constructed dimension of what she is doing while still making the construction feel genuine. These are capabilities that the pop industry does not consistently produce, because the pop industry's standard mechanisms for creating public personas tend to reward earnestness over irony and sincerity over self-awareness, and the combination of all four simultaneously is genuinely rare. The audience that found her in the summer of 2024 found not simply a song they liked, but a person they understood. A person whose specific quality of public presence made the songs feel like evidence of something real, rather than simply the product of skilled commercial songwriting. The question of what Sabrina Carpenter does next, how she navigates the specific challenge of following a breakthrough moment that arrived at 24 after 12 years of professional development, is the question that the pop industry cannot answer, but that the 12 years of professional development provides the best available evidence for the artists who sustain the momentum that a breakthrough moment produces are consistently the artists who had something real before the breakthrough and who continue to develop it after. The breakthrough does not make the career. It reveals what was there. What was there in Sabrina Carpenter's case, the voice, the craft, the specific artistic identity that the emails I Can't Send and the short and sweet albums demonstrate was being developed with genuine seriousness across the decade before anyone outside a specific fan community was paying. Attention is what the summer of 2024 finally made visible to the world at the scale the work had always warranted. Whether the work continues to develop at the pace and the level the breakthrough moment revealed it was capable of is the answer that only the subsequent years can provide. The 12 years before the breakthrough make the optimistic answer more plausible than the overnight success version of the story would suggest. Subscribe if you didn't know. This was the full story behind one of the fastest commercial rises in recent pop history, because the controversy framing exists to generate clicks, and this channel examines what the controversy is actually covering, and if this breakdown of how 12 years of professional development became an overnight sensation changed the way you look at pop stardom. Click the screen right now, because we have other videos featuring famous personalities and their dark secrets and stories that don't usually come to light. If you want to know more, click on our videos and subscribe.